Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go over the YM. It's a 10,000 tick chart using both Wyckoff as well as cycle analysis. Cycle analysis fits with Wyckoff because Wyckoff just called cycles waves, and he used to analyze them. He used to analyze their duration, meaning how big the cycles were, as well as their extent. So you can also look at cycles and see when the down cycles are greater than the up cycles. That means you have a turn, and vice versa. Anyway, so I mean, the way you use cycles is you'll see. So this is the first cycle here, the second cycle here. You know this is the second cycle because it takes out the high of the first cycle. And finally you have the third cycle, which takes out the high of the second cycle. The key thing to remember regarding this uptrend is that it broke the cycle low. In when the down cycles become bigger than the up cycles, and in this case it does that. You see this? So this is the cycle low, and it broke the cycle low, which means that it broke the uptrend. So when it does that, this becomes the down cycle high now, which was the up cycle high. Is now the down cycle high, and then it comes to the next point in the cycle. So you have this point and this point, which are your start and ending points of the first down cycle. So this is the first down cycle. Now the way you trade this is that once you see, well, first of all, one of the things you got to see is that in the cycle, what you'll have is a divergence. There was a slight divergence here. It's not really that clear, but it's there from cycle 2 to cycle 3. Actually from cycle 1 as well. It's there. So typically what happens is at the top of a cycle, at the top of a trend, what you'll have is divergence or convergence if you're in a downtrend. So here you have divergence, and that divergence is confirmed by a break of the cycle low. So once you have that, that means you can put on the trade. Other traders, what they do is they look for divergence and then a big bar at the top because they want to catch tops and bottoms. You could do that, or you could just wait for the break and sell the retest. As you can see, it went all the way back, and you have that thrust. That thrust is really important because it means that the markup phase is done and the markdown phase has been initiated. So this right here is distribution, and the markdown phase is in effect. So this markdown bar initiates the second cycle, and we're in markdown now. So it hits the start and the end of the second cycle. This 78 is nothing more than a retest. There's the second cycle, and then finally you have the third cycle, which takes out the prior bar low. Now over here, what's really important as of today, 5-9, what you have is a convergence. Alright, so that means that the momentum oscillator is showing that from cycle 2 to cycle 3, although here it's going down on the momentum oscillator, it is convergence, it's converging. Some people call this a bullish divergence. It really doesn't matter. The point is, it's there, and volume has come in. Now it isn't a lot of volume. 49 volume is really not a lot of volume, and the question is whether this will continue down or not, or is there a trend change. What we see is the trend line has been broken. There's been 3 cycles. There's some good volume right here coming in, bull volume coming in. This is the highest volume since over here, but Is it enough to initiate a new trend? That's very questionable. I don't think a new trend is going to start until you need the prior cycle high to be taken out, and that prior cycle high is up here. So you can't really trade this until the prior cycle high is taken out. So you need to have a divergence or convergence. You need the prior cycle high to be taken out, and then you could buy the retest. And it should have heavy volume in the background, bull volume. Alright, so that is the YM. Some Wyckoff concepts. I mean, you have breaking of the ice, and you have some type of retest. More importantly though, you see that the buying waves versus the selling waves right here are very weak on these right here. Now that doesn't mean anything until you have much more confirmation, and I just don't see that confirmation in the market yet. So next market we're looking at is the Japanese yen. What you'll notice is basically it was formed a base and it did a spring. This was really slick the way they did this. Fooled a lot of folks, including me, because this heavy volume that came in, see that, and then this low volume over here, and plus a thrust, you know, so we were getting ready for the next cycle down. But this was a news-based event, and good thing to have your stops, because you got protected from this. Anyway, so it went up. This cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, cycle 4 takes out cycle 3 high, cycle 5 takes out cycle 4 high. Key to remember here is, as it's going to the top, you have Wyckoff buying climax and a shortening of the thrust on a retest. That's very pathetic. More importantly though, you have a divergence from this high to this high, this high to this lower high. After the divergence, you have to see the after multiple wave highs, you should be at least 3. You know, Elliott wave 1 through 5. You could have 1 through 7, and you could have 1 through 9, and you could have 1 through 11. It just depends on how strong the trend is. So over here you have 1 cycle, 2, 3, 4, 5 cycles. So on the 5th cycle you have the divergence. After that you have the break of the prior cycle low. This is really important, that the break is there and that there's heavy volume. The break is not a correction. A break is solid break with high volume selling waves. And the best part is it comes up and then it tests lower and it basically goes lower. So this break is confirmed. You're midway in cycle 1. So what you want to do is sell the test. A lot of times in the yen they go to extremes, but in this case, you know, they went to the effort reward area, which is right here. After it went in that area, it broke, and now we're currently in cycle 2. Now, is there any reason to buy this market? Any reason at all? No. Why is there no reason? There's no convergence. There's no sign of strength or change of behavior. There's no testing, nothing. There's no reason to buy this market. It's going to continue to go down, and very likely, you know, around here. But if there are buyers, they'll defend here, what you call the creek. So at this time, this may bounce because it's severely oversold, but you know, if it comes up here, they could be sellers. There's no indication of strength. There's only indication that supply and demand is at the downside. It hit an oversold area, it might bounce a little, and continued selling comes in. So that's the second market. Let's move on to the third. Next market we're taking a look at is the Treasury notes. In treasury notes on the ZN, what you're noticing is there's a first cycle up. Really important to mark this. And then there is a second cycle. Now I'm not sure if this is a high, but I bet that this whole thing is a second cycle. So this whole thing is the second cycle up. Bingo. The second cycle. So now we're waiting for the third cycle. Now you'll notice that there is volume here coming in, but you know, the trend is still up. From this low here, the trend is still up. And you want to do is mark the high of the second cycle. Always marking the high of the second cycle. Of all cycles, mark their high to identify if the cycle's been broken. So cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3 coming up. No reason to short. Is there a divergence? 1. There's no divergence. I don't really see a divergence. But as you can see in stochastics, you got 1 and 2. Round 3 coming up. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at crude. And what happened here, you had that sign of strength and obviously the cycle 1 high. Cycle 1 high was broken by cycle 2. And then you had cycle 3. Then you had another cycle. You know, I think this is some type of cycle 4. It doesn't really matter if this is 3 or this is 4. They're all 3. It really doesn't matter. The point is, as you get up there, there's divergence. You know, it goes up and diverges. So as this diverges, the next step is to see the low taken out. So as you can see, the low of cycle 4 is taken out. Once the low of cycle 4 is taken out, you're ready to short. Now there's a way of shorting it up here as well, but I like to see the low of the cycle taken out, because then there's no doubt that it's the first down cycle, meaning the down waves are bigger than the up waves. So this is when the down wave is bigger than the up wave, and that's your greatest shot at a downtrend. The second thing you want to take a look at is how it broke. Big volume, big volume, big volume. As soon as it got over here, midway in the cycle, the down waves have basically taken over with thrusts and all of that. And here you got your test, but even the test was set up with a bullish divergence or convergence. And that's where you short the test. And don't think it's not going to test. Markets, they just have a tendency to test. The only problem is when they up thrust you out of the position. So now the current state of oil is that it's about to break the cycle 1 low. You know, that's pretty bearish, because this is cycle 1. I believe this to be cycle 1, and there's some shit in the middle. And this right here is about to take out cycle 1. Wyckoff speak though, basically down waves are stronger than the up waves, and the up wave here set up from the divergence, all it did was test the high bar, near the high bar, or the thrust right after the high bar. And now basically it's gonna enter cycle 2. As this breaks, and we have to see it break, because right now it's in what's considered to be oversold. It might just come up a little and then break. Whatever it does doesn't matter. The point is, if it takes out cycle 2, or is it going to spring and we're going to see more up cycles? I don't believe so, because there's no divergence. It's clearly low making a lower low, and clearly supply is in control. Look at the right hand side. It's volume, volume, volume. Where's the green? Nothing, 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 nothing. So this leads me to believe that this is going to break. Well, and you've gotten to the 46 level, and from the 46 level, which was the top, it's moving sideways and getting ready to break.